Good afternoon, members and the viewing public. Welcome back to the House Chambers. We will now rise back from recess to receive the second witness to the JGO meeting that was scheduled for yesterday. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Ms. Bernie Palacios, the Director of Financial Services at the Department of Finance, and her counsel, Mr. Matt Gregory. May I ask you to please come into the chamber with us? Thank you. Before we begin, I want to thank you both Ms. Palacios and Mr. Gregory for your patience and cooperation yesterday and joining us today this afternoon. May I ask Ms. Bernie Palacios to please rise to be administered the oath.
Ms. Bernadita C. Palacios, do you solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Be seated.
Thank you. I wanted to restate yesterday the purpose of Ms. Bernie Palacios being here today, and that is you are being summoned before the committee because the 22nd House of Representatives has reopened the investigation into the expenditure of public funds by Governor Torres and Mrs. Diane Tadela Torres, and you are here in relation to your duties as Director of Financial Services from the Department of Finance. With having said that, I would like to begin the questions, and I would like to recognize at this time Representative Donald Magnolia.
Thank you, Chair Babauta. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Palacios. So to start off, for the record, can you please state your full name and your position?
My name is Bernadita Cabrera Palacios, and I'm the Director of Financial Services, Department of Finance.
And how long have you held this director position?
I was a director since 2012.
And how long have you been with the Department of Finance?
For 30 some years.
Thank you for that. Can you briefly describe your duties and responsibilities as the Director of Financial Services?
In the Department of Finance, the financial services, we handle payroll, travel, accounts payable, accounting, and reconciliation.
Now, as the Director of Finance and Accounting for the past 8, going on 9 years, how familiar are you with the CNMI laws and regulations governing the expenditures of public funds, including any government travel, official representation, and reimbursements? Some of these laws and regulations can be found on Title 1, Section 121, regarding public purpose. We have Section 7407 regarding travel, or Title 70 of the Administrative Code regarding control and expenditure of public funds.
On the public laws or any other laws, probably I'm not familiar with it, but to the regulations of what Department of Finance have, I can probably answer that question.
All right, thank you. So Moving on to the topic of travel, can you please explain the process that finance follows for receiving and processing requests for travel?
Okay, we received the travel authorization from the department on anybody traveling under the government. We give it to travel for calculation of per diems, car rentals based on the itinerary, and then given to the accounting section for certification of funds, returning it back to travel, preparing the travel advances for the individual and GTRs for travel agencies. After that, if the travel is done, the individual is responsible to file a travel voucher, and finance will calculate that based on your boarding pass and any other receipts submitted.
So, what would be your role in reviewing and approving requests for travel?
The request of travel is after they calculated, before they entered in the system, I certify for funds, that funds is available.
So, when you sign off on travel authorizations, what does your signature mean when you sign off on these documents?
Availability of funds.
And what does it mean when you certify these funds?
That money is there.
And do you certify that these funds is used for public purpose?
Come again?
So, would you certify that these funds are being used for public purpose?
I can't say it's a public purpose, but I'm signing on availability of funds. It's the department head that signs for the purpose of the travel.
Right. But when you get these TAs and when you look at these justification, do you refer to Title 1, Section 121 regarding public purpose and that these funds will be used for a public purpose?
Can you repeat again?
When you certify, after looking through the department's justification for travel and you certify these funds, do you also look for to ensure that these funds will be spent for a public purpose in accordance with Title 1, Section 121?
When I certify for funds, it's the department head that would authorize the purpose of the travel. I'm only certifying on behalf of availability of funds.
Okay, so you don't go further and
No.
okay. In regards to the governor's travel, what is your role in reviewing and approving the governor's travel?
Certification of funds.
Do you also seek the Secretary of Finance's approval for these travel?
Some of them are signed by the Secretary of Finance.
And when the Secretary of Finance signs off, you don't have to review these
No.
and go through a second certification?
No.
How often would the Secretary of Finance sign off with these funds without having to go through you?
I don't know.
Can you briefly describe what documents are required to justify government travel? So when you process these TAs, what documents are needed for your review to approve these travel?
When we received the travel authorization, the only thing that we do is the itinerary that's attached. And the purpose of the travel is on the TA itself. The purpose of the and remarks of the travel.
Itinerary meaning just the travel itinerary.
Yes.
So any event program or anything like that, it's not required.
We usually ask if it's for workshop to be attached, or the attachments of usually the department will attach that.
But without one, you would still go ahead and sign off.
Maybe sometimes.
And after the travel has been completed, what documents are required?
We require the copy of the boarding pass, your car rental agreement, and whatever other purpose you are requesting for.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Palacios. That's all I have for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Mangonia. I wanted to make a short announcement at about 2:45. We will take a short recess, just letting you know in advance. At this time, I'd like to recognize Representative Edwin Probst.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Palacios, thank you so much for coming in today. How are you?
Fine.
Thank you. It's great to see you and your wonderful counsel there, Mr. Matt Gregory. How are you doing, sir? Before I begin, a few questions, just for clarification purposes, if it's okay, I do want to recognize that this is your attorney with you today, appearing with you. And I just wanted to also ask, is this being paid for through you or through the Office of the Governor? Or if you could let us know on that.
Department of Finance. Yeah, Secretary of
Yeah, so I assume,
Mhm.
I'm not the expert.
Secretary of Finance. Oh, is that me? Or?
You're doing this one.
It's paid under the Secretary of Finance.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you. Thank you. I'll proceed with my questions. If we can, John, if we can pull up 1 CMC section 7407, or can, if you can. Thank you. My first question, Ms. Palacios, is what we are putting up. I don't know if you can really see that. Do we have a copy for her? Can we please provide her a copy of this Title
I
I?
think it's,
This is 1 CMC section 7407, restrictions on government paid travel outside of the Commonwealth. Does she have? You have?
yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Are you familiar? You've seen this section before. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
No.
You have not seen it before. Okay, all right. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, well, so this has restrictions on government paid travel outside of the Commonwealth. I have. I'd like to read it just so that we can review it. But you do have a copy? She has a copy. Okay. So for the viewing public, also for Ms. Palacios, I'm just going to go ahead and read through this. So this is Title 1 CMC Section 7407, restrictions on government paid travel outside of the Commonwealth. Letter A states every government travel authorization shall contain a statement under penalty of perjury that the travel is for official business purposes and undertaken to benefit the people of the Commonwealth. Letter B states within 15 days after completion of government travel, the traveler shall submit a detailed trip report and documented travel expenditures to the approving authority. The submission shall be a public record. A person who has failed to make a timely submission shall not receive travel advances until his untimely submission is remedied. Letter C, government agencies, departments, public corporations, boards, or commissions shall not conduct any official board or commission meeting outside of the Commonwealth. And it goes further through I read you the parts that I wanted you to look at. I also wanted to, if we can go down to letter F, airfare restriction. The Commonwealth government shall not purchase or furnish for or reimburse to any employee, contractor, board member, or other person required to travel on behalf of the government, its departments, divisions, agencies, and autonomous agencies, an airline ticket for travel in first class, business class, or any other premium class designation. Travel agents issuing tickets for government travel shall only be paid for at the regular economy fare or its equivalent. Any government employee who causes an airline ticket to be issued in violation of the section shall pay a civil fine of $1,000. So I'd like to ask you, with regard to individuals going off island under CNMI government travel requirements, are they required to submit trip reports?
On this regulation, yes, but I'm not sure. Um, the trip report is all submitted by any traveler. Some travelers, yes, they do. Some not.
Thank you. But it is a requirement as
It is a requirement.
yes, it is a requirement, and from our understanding, and you would agree that it's for everybody, right? All government employees
Yes.
would have to submit this trip report. I know, because even with us, we're public officials or public servants, but we all are required to submit trip reports, and if we forget, we are told you did not submit your trip report. So we always appreciate that because that is something that is mandated. Um, so everyone is required to submit trip reports within 15 days. And if they don't, their travel advances are withheld until these reports are submitted, as stated in letter B under this section. Um, is that correct? Would you agree with that?
Based on this, yes, but very hard to say you can't get your travel advance because you haven't filed your travel advance.
Mhm.
Usually we're caught in the middle, not giving you your travel advance
Mhm.
because you haven't filed your prior trip. We never applied that portion.
So what happens if a government employee fails to submit a trip report for off-island travel? What happens to that government employee?
If you don't file within, we give you actually 30 days because of the routing of the travel vouchers. It goes up to SAA or the governor for approval on that travel voucher. And we give you 30 days in order for you to submit your travel voucher. And if you still don't file, we will do an automatic payroll deduction for the money that you owe the government.
Okay.
And that would wake you up probably to file your
To make
voucher.
sure- Right. Okay. So it is deducted from a government employee's paycheck. I think
Yes.
we've heard of that happening, and that is actually a very good way to ensure that they do that. So finance deducts from a government employee's paycheck if a government travel reporting requirements are not met, and that motivates them, right, to ensure that they do that. Okay. Based on what you're familiar with in your many years as director and your 30 plus or regulations for the governor not to have to provide a trip report after he completes travel for government purposes?
No,
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So he is not an exception to the rule. Is
No.
that correct? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Palacios. Is there any exception in the law, again, based on your experience or from what we read today, that for the First Lady not to have to provide a trip report after traveling?
no.
Okay, thank you. And this is where it gets interesting. I'm just wondering if you've ever been asked this or have ever perhaps raised this issue, because the First Lady is not a government employee. Is that correct? She's not.
Yes.
Yes. So she's not a government employee. She's not an elected or appointed official. So in that sense, would she turn in a trip report to finance, even though she's not a government employee? Does she submit trip reports? Have you ever seen one?
No,
Okay.
but can I,
Sure,
I'm
please.
not sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen?
Sorry,
It's
but
okay.
I don't remember seeing one travel for the First Lady, or I'm not sure whether, I mean, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you. That's something that, of course, we've been asked, and I didn't really have an answer. So, of course, we did want to bring that up today. Moving forward, Ms. Palacios, to your knowledge, has the Department of Finance ever withheld travel advances or otherwise imposed any penalties on the governor for failure to provide a trip report after completing his off-island travel as required by law?
No,
No, thank you. Why not? I'm just curious. Why would-
I'm gonna have a brief objection to mischaracterizes the evidence. I don't think she said that there was ever a situation where it would be,
Okay.
but you may flesh that out a little bit.
Thank you. Duly noted, counsel. Thank you. If you could continue.
can you repeat the question again?
Certainly. Has the Department of Finance ever withheld travel advances or otherwise imposed a penalty on the government